Good evening. It's Monday. It's 8 p.m. or just after. Welcome to Online Darts. It is the live lounge. It'll be Phill, Bars, Jack Garwood, and Lee Boys. And boys, have we got a show and a half today to talk through. There has been so much going on over the last week, and news dropping today that has got the darting world talking. It could get a bit interesting over the next couple of hours.
It's not, I wouldn't say it's talking a good thing in this sense. They're ruining my favourite event.
That's why. This is why it shouldn't be your favourite event, by the way. And he's my least favourite because it's still the same.
Hello, Lee. How are you? Hello, everybody.
Evening, boys.
Yeah. Look, it's going to be good. I cannot wait. We've just shared some links on social media as well, so you guys know what to do. Give it a like, give it a reshare, like the stream, and come and subscribe as well. The chat room is rammed already. Good to have you all on board. Tommy, Adrian, Malachi, Owen is in. Chris, Andrew, how are we doing? James, Craig, Bob's in. Aaron, Tommy, all good, gents. Pack show. We have got Luke Humphries dropping in. Not exactly sure when it's going to be. He's got the link and whatever, but he only got home from Stuttgart today, and he has given up some of his time to come and speak to us as well. What a gent, guys.
Yeah. Now I'm going to have the third best beard on the show.
This is why I clean shave, because I'm not competing, so I'm just like, yeah. You know, it's what we do. Evening, Lendl. Hope you are good. Yeah, look, I cannot wait. It's been some week in the darting world, and it doesn't get any quieter either. So much going on right now. This week, the Premier League is going to go to the wire. The World Seniors are back at Lakeside. We've got another Euro Tour event. And then just this little event in Madison Square Garden on the horizon as well, boys.
That doesn't count.
It's more important than the World Cup at the moment, isn't it?
Wash your mouth out, son.
Yep.
You know it makes sense, Gob.
Don't make me go all Jamie Carragher on your ass, Noel Gallagher.
Yeah, but Noel was right.
So was Jamie.
We won the league. Ray!
Sorry, where do you put your trophy for finishing full?
I don't care. It stopped you not doing the quad, so I couldn't care less.
The same one as you put for finishing second or finishing sixth, to be honest. It does in the same place. There's nothing there.
You celebrate that. They do.
It's all good. Look, we're going to crack.
Dart show, yeah. Dart show.
Are we allowed to say Dart show? Is that not copyrighted yet? Right, we're going to go all the way back to the O2 in London. That's where we're going to start because we've got a busy show ahead. There it is at the start of the night. It was the Welsh Derby up first. Were we a little disappointed with Gezi? Bearing in mind he had to win. It was pretty much all or nothing, and didn't really show up, Gob.
Yeah, I'm disappointed he didn't give it a little bit more, especially as he did have the advantage of throw, which we said has been so key throughout this Premier League. Johnny Clayton was steady, but I don't think he was exceptional, not by his standards, not by Premier League standards, not by PDC standards. He was there. It was good, but a going price that has been world champion and world number one, when you need to win, needs to be able to step up your game a little bit.
Yeah, look, it just didn't quite happen. Johnny Clayton did a number on him in that respect. And then Michael Smith has been threatening to do this for a while, Boise. But eventually, he's beaten MVG on a stage. in the Premier League.
Yeah, it wasn't the MVG that we've seen recently, but from a Michael Smith perspective, he would have taken a win over MVG right now if there's both averaging 60. He wouldn't care one hoot just to get that win. It wasn't great by either, but it was just what Bullet Boy needed. We know he was out the running. He needed a great run for last Thursday and this Thursday, and results that was why it was near on impossible for him to do it. But to get that win over MVG, to step in the right direction, even if it wasn't the performance that we know that both players can normally do on that stage.
Yeah, look, bit of a mixed few days for MVG, but we'll see how it bounces back. I know we're going to have a discussion on the standard, and again, some of these players scheduling, they may need to look at it as well as part of this argument that we're sure we're going to have shortly. Then, James Wade, Peter Wright. James Wade didn't look right at all, Gob, did he? Look, massive credit that he's gone up there and played, but I can't help but think someone's had a word in his ear. I don't know this or anything like that, but it just didn't look right. The darts were going in at funny angles, and James has got one of the most solid throws we've ever seen. The darts don't deviate unless they hit something, and we had all kinds of angles going on.
Yeah, I think we established there was a draft up on stage. A lot of the players weren't happy, and it was happening to quite a few players, but it was so far off from James. And if you look back at the rest of this campaign, look, Gezi should not have only missed 1 week with his hand injury. James probably shouldn't have played this week. You look at it, and it's looking as if the PDC has said you're only allowed to miss 1 week in a row.
Yeah.
Which is an issue. In the previous one, you could miss a couple of weeks and then double up a couple of weeks. But with this format, missing a week is an absolute killer because they miss out on a game. Then you've got a bye going through, so that player might not get their walk on at all in that evening if they then don't win the next game, which we've seen from Joe Cullen a couple of times. It's just not conducive to 16 weeks where you are going to have illnesses or injuries.
Yeah. Gary only missed the 1 week. It's just, it might be a coincidence, but James didn't look right up there. And look, Peter's played okay. 94 and a bit average is very respectable. But I know James has just scraped over the 80 mark. At long points, this was around the 78, 79. And the way James has been playing, that's a million miles from where he's been.
Yeah, look, in all the predictions before this, we said even Wadey coming back at half strength would have been a test for Peter Wright in current form. But look, he was nowhere near half strength looking at that. He was absolutely miles off the pace. Never looked comfortable at all. Clearly an issue there. And Peter Wright's done enough, basically.
The final game. If this was a football game, Boise, we'd be saying Gary Anderson was on the beach.
Yeah, for me, there's real question marks about Anderson currently. I really hope it's the fact that the Premier League's done and dusted in his head probably a couple of weeks ago, and he's just fulfilling the lead as he should do as a professional. But there is huge concerns. We know it can go into tournaments in not great form and then reach a world final, match play final, those sort of runs. I'm just worried about the performance, and it seems to be a bit week in, week out now that we just haven't seen Gary Anderson in his Premier League. There's the question marks are coming back around, seen a lot on socials over the past few weeks about the exclusion of Rob Tross, and should Tross have been in there. The Premier League was picked back then, but there's more question marks now because of the performance that Gary Anderson's put in coming into this, and it was just so one-sided. Steady performance from Joe, a much-needed win for Joe, and put himself, obviously, even if he would have just taken this one win, it would have put him in a decent position. But it's very, very poor by Gary. And I just hope there's something that gives him that motivation or that sort of tit up the backside to that back to what we can see, because it's a fantastic player. He's well supported. Everyone wants to see a great Gary. I know Dobbs a huge fan, but it's just when he's free flowing, he's one of the best. When he's like this, it's very, very hard to watch.
I was about to say, you touched on it there. Hard to watch. God, you love Gary to bits, but right now, do you see him coming back, or do you think the days are numbered?
If Gary was going to make a comeback, it would have been after the World Championships when he had a pop at Wayne Mardo and they had that bit of back and forth 18 months ago now. And
yeah,
at that point, you thought that was the motivation that Gary needed, that little bit between his teeth almost, because he's always been a better player when he's angry or annoyed, and he just can't get himself into that state of mind up on stage because he just does not care anymore. It looks like he's going through the motions, and at the moment, it's just damaging to the memories and the legacy of Gary right now, I think. If he's not going to put the practice in, he's never been the biggest practicer, but if he's not going to start putting the practice in or acting like he actually wants to be at these events, then it's time to say, do you know what, I'll bugger off. Because he can rock up at the seniors tomorrow. He can't rock up at the seniors tomorrow, he'll have to qualify next year or whatever else. But you get my point. He could go and play in the seniors. He could go and pick up exhibition work as and when he wanted it, which is far more laid back, and he can prat around and he can do whatever he wants. And in that relaxed atmosphere, I genuinely don't think you'll see many players better the stories that you've heard about Gary Anderson being able to average over 120 for 2.5 hours in practice that Michael Smith used to tell. He's not making that up.
Well, it's interesting as well that it's not been announced, but I know Gary Anderson is not going to Australia and New Zealand. He's already told me he's booked the family holidays booked. He's not going. Where you think 4 years ago, that was inconceivable that Gary Anderson wouldn't be on the whole of the World Series.
We're talking about someone dropping off and the standard dropping. This is from the top of the sport. We're not saying, obviously, he's going to take the fall in the rankings. He's still going to be a top pro if he decides to carry on. When he's got that decision in potentially 18 months, that's not a worry. I still wouldn't be surprised if there's a run at a big TV comp between now and the end of the year where he goes on and has one. The problem is they are then few and far between. But there's not the question marks for me about him being in a tour card holder and anything like that, and probably going on to the seniors. That will be his decision because he will always be, even playing at the levels he's at the moment. I can still see him being a top 64 player for a number of years. The concern then comes when he drops a bit and he doesn't go to Euro tours and pick up those money. That's where the impact will be on Gary. It's just been in that top echelon, but I still like to think, and this might be more heart than head, that there's a big one in there for Gary before he does make that step.
Evening, Andrew. Hope you are good, mate. Glad to have you in. Moving into the semi-finals now. Johnny Clayton does what Johnny Clayton does. God, 6-4 over Michael Smith, and the Ferret just marches into another final.
Job done again. And look, it's 4-5 semi-finals in a row now for Michael Smith. He's getting over that first hurdle, but he's not been able to make the most of those semi-final opportunities. Look, a couple have been taken out of his hands completely, but again, Johnny's there for the pick-in, mid-90s average. He's got a chance there. Doesn't take it, and now he's got 1 week left to go and win one in what is probably the most difficult week to go and win, because the table dictates the fixtures. You've got the best two players in opposite halves of the draw and whatever else around it. That just makes it so much more difficult for, especially someone in his position, in seventh, to go and win one. So from here, look, don't get over the line there. And what wasn't a great night, by the way, 97 was the best average of the evening. You got a couple of players that felt like they were just going through the motions because they'd already qualified. You had the early exit of Gezi and Gary. Wadey was ill, flat, whatever. To not take advantage of 3 players blowing out like that, Gezi and Johnny and MVG just going through motions because they've already qualified. Not a lot can change after that. Those first round results. It's a little bit disappointing that Smith just can't get the timing right for when to produce that big performance, can he?
No. Yeah, it's just frustrating. The second one, the pigs and troughs of Peter Wright, Boise. He's gone from 93.5 to 89 and gets a toweling from Joe Cullen.
Yeah, it's a Dane that Peter Wright wins. Would he be roughly, depend on the final then, but he'd be in a position where Joe, the pressure is on Joe then to beat him next week when they meet and go on and win the semi and potentially the final to then get in front of Peter Wright. Now, that Dame, even that Dame alone, it didn't really matter as much what happened in the final. It's just a sort of winner takes all in that one now. And to put in that performance is very, very disappointing. Yes, he wasn't pushed by James Wade. He averaged 94 and it was an okay performance. But to then find the level he found, the scoring was just off completely. Only 6 scores over 140 is very, very poor from Peter Wright. No 180s in there. It's just, before the weekend, there'd be big question marks about the level that Peter's at. And once then, this is from where he is the best player in the world, rankings-wise, world champion, but he's not showing that at all. And it does set up a very, very interesting tie next week. But for Peter Wright, it was very disappointing.
Yeah. Also, Gob as well. Interesting that the contact lenses had caused Peter some discomfort, and we saw the glasses at the Premier League and on the Euro Tour at the weekend.
Yeah, sometimes you just need that little bit of a change, don't you? That might be affecting him a little bit while he's up there. Look, this is the last show where I will not be wearing glasses for the foreseeable. I have to wear them for TV work as of last week. And look, when you're up there, you're having to concentrate the way it is. Maybe just needs that little bit of a change.
Did you just say that Peter Wright might need something of a change? The dog changes constantly, whatever it may be. It's not the right person to make that point.
And then from the final, we have the customary picture. There it is. Joe Cullen has set up a showdown with Peter Wright, and at the end of this, we didn't think this was coming, Gob, did we? Most of us were saying it was going to be Gezi that potentially crashed the party, but the Rockstar has other ideas.
He does indeed. And like you said, it is a completely straight shootout. Gezi's out of the equation. Michael Smith too far back as well. It's literally between Peter Wright and Joe Cullen. And Cullen holds the aces. Well, I say holds the aces. It's a straight shootout. Cullen has the advantage of throw in that match. So, yeah, look, he's got every advantage that he possibly could have from the situation from behind. Wade is guaranteed to be there, but he can drop to fourth. But yeah, only one of those two can overtake him because of the way that the format works. Is that a little bit of a niche thing about the way this final weekend of fixtures or final week of fixtures run? Because in years gone by, James Wade's position in third would be under serious threat, or could potentially be under serious threat if everybody just plays one game per night, 2 points behind, whatever.
It's not right, and I know we'll come on and we'll review the games next week, but looking at the Premier League last week before playoffs, there's a certain time that game would be played with a peak audience and everyone watching it. This one's sort of done very early on Thursday night, second game on, I think. And it is a strange situation that James Wade can finish below the person who's fourth and fifth, but can only finish fourth, because both of them can move above him, but not both of them can. And it just probably adds
Either
to...
of them can, but both of them can't, yeah.
Yeah, sorry, yeah. Either of them can, but both of them can't. But it's just a strange situation, and for me, a strange Premier League that still doesn't fit right with stuff like this happening. There's always a question mark, and there's been one every week. whether we play dropouts or now coming into the final week.
Yeah, absolutely. And there we have his run on paper. Looks fairly good, doesn't it, when it says Gary Anderson, Peter Wright, Johnny Clayton?
Not as impressive as it would have been 3 years ago, but still mightily good. I think all of them runs look good. When you put down 3 results in a row on the same night against the Premier League, no matter who it is, no matter what the scorelines say, it's going to look good. Until you start putting the averages below them on the graphic, it's going to look good no matter what.
It'd be definitely unfair to do that on Joe this week compared to some of the averages that we've seen previous, as there wasn't.
On both weeks, Joe's won, to be honest.
Yeah.
Both weeks, Joe's won, and the week the Gary won as well.
But we give James Wade a lot of praise on this for the one thing of winning when other players are not playing well, and Joe's done it the 2 weeks that he's done and won it, and he deserves full credit for it. So he's in a great position.
He is. I think at the end of Thursday night, he would have felt like he was in an even better position than he is right now, because that new equipment from the weekend, spoiler alert, has made a massive difference to how I'm now approaching Thursday night.
If you offered Joe this the day after he'd won the Masters, he would have snapped your hand off, I think.
Yeah.
Absolutely snapped your hand off to be in a position where he's got thrown into a game against anyone to butt his place in the Final Four.
And there we have the table, boys. 22 points apiece. It's going to go to the wire.
The one thing I will say about the Premier League, that come week 12, week 13, the 3 of us sort of written this off and says that we didn't expect it. Maybe last week they said there was a chance of Desi breaking into it. At least we have got the final night with something resting on it. Yes, it's just one game and it's very early on in the night, but at least we do have something of the league table to look at going into the final night, when probably up until week 13 we haven't really looked at this table much, because it hasn't meant much at all to any of us.
No, there is that.
I'm trying to be positive about the Premier League here. It's hard, but I'm trying.
There we have that one. What did you think, everyone in the chat room, of the Euro Tour? I'm sorry, of the Premier League at the weekend? It all comes down to this solitary game.
You know the nightly 10 grand bonus? Is there different prize money depending on where you finish in this league table this year?
Correct, yes.
Is there any incentive for Michael Smith to go out and get more points and go in prize this week?
Only
Apart
financial. So, yeah, wait a minute. It's...
I've seen it somewhere.
So 8th place is 60 grand. It basically is going up in 5 grand segments up until 5th.
And then it's based off playoff results rather than...
Correct.
60 grand for rocking up and winning 5 matches.
It's all right, isn't it?
5 matches. He's just earned 12 grand a match. Plus the extra 10 grand for winning a night.
Yeah.
So actually, he would be taking away more than Michael Smith if Michael Smith doesn't win next week or jump above Derwin Price.
Yeah.
He'll take 17. Smith will take 65 if it stays as is.
For winning 5 games of darts in a year. That's mental.
It's all right.
But there's no prize money for but there's no way that we can fund first round lose on the Pro Tour so that everybody can have a full-time career. 60 grand for 5 wins.
Yeah. Right. Can one of you boys fill on the Euro Tour a second, because I'm trying to sort out Luke Humphries' technical issues as we speak.
Bloody Berkshire. No internet down there. Euro Tour.
He's not based there anymore.
Oh, he's up north now, isn't he?
Yeah.
And now he can hear everything we're saying about his internet. Hi, Luke. Right, Euro Tour started Friday afternoon. I guess leaders. Let's just go with Gilding 6-1 over John Michael. Interestingly, there's no. Did I see right? There's no Greece in the World Cup. This result might have had something to do with it because he's struggling a little bit. Manos Rasmus 6-5 win over Niels Zonneveld. Rasmus accumulating a lot of wins. Look, not the best performance, 87 average from him, but job done over the Dutchman.
Yeah, the standard then dots better after Dane 2 Dob. Very impressive again from Adam Dorlas. We've seen him improve more and more. That stage experience seems to be paying off. And then it's Ryan Joyce and the inconsistencies that we see from Ryan. Seems to have wandered run every so often. But in this one, he came into it, and Adam Dorlas in form, and he followed that form through with a very impressive win in the third day.
He's been playing around on the Euro Tour as Adam Gavlas. Interesting to see from him. Look, he's not the quickest player, but he's vocal as well. He embraces the whole Gezi roar at the minute, and it's pretty interesting to watch. Mickey Mantle 6-1 win over Radek Sagansky. Look, I was really impressed with Sagansky out of Q School. Started the year pretty well. Last 6 weeks or so, results not going his way. Performance is the same, sub 90 from him in this one. 1 from 7 on the doubles.
Yeah, not great, but good weekend for Mickey. Good performance by Mickey Mansell. I know he's had his critics on this show before, the person who's not speaking at the moment, but that is not about the person himself, but about how slow he is. That person up there, it's a bit like.
Sorry.
No comment. Martin Lukeman, look, his run on the Euro Tours continues right now. 6-3 win over Stefan Belmont, one of the Swiss World Cup team. They'll be there in a few weeks. Ryan Meikle beats Ron Meulenkamp 6-2. We've said it before, that game was not quick. 82 average from Ron Meulenkamp. We're going to talk about this later on in the show, no doubt, but there are a lot of sub 90 going on at the minute on the tour, and that's just another example of it. And then a 6-0 win over Lucas Weinig for Joe Mernon, who I was pretty impressed with this weekend. I thought Joe Mernon had a decent little run, and this was a nice little start, Lee.
Yeah, nice start, well played. It's a bit like the Damon Peter Wright, James Wade sort of. We saw a good performance from Mernon, but there was nothing at all coming back his way. And sometimes that can have the opposite effect, and you can see the performance drop. But Joe Mernon throughout this one looked very, very comfortable in total control, and it was good to see Joe Mernon, who's got opportunities now to push on, and it was good to see him take one of those opportunities this weekend.
On to the evening session on the Friday, and this is where it started to get just that little bit better, I thought. Good return for Yeller to start with. Callum Ridge out of sorts again, sub 90 for him. It's all or nothing with Callum Ridge right now, isn't it?
Yeah, it's one where we've seen Callum with obviously a lot more experience currently than what Yeller's got after dropping off the Pro Tour, and we've seen him enter quite a lot of the WDF events. We've seen him on the Live Lounge Live League this year, not Live Lounge. I always mess them up. Live League this year, but again, it's good to see a very, very good performance from Yeller. Yes, he was an under par Callum Ridge, but still, it wasn't too bad considering plus the rest of the day and the draw that he could have had. He still had to put in that performance to get over the line, and it's good to see Yeller performing on that stage. It's just, then he's a player where there's a lot of question marks around consistency, and the fact that he's going to have minimal opportunities to then add to that. Hopefully we'll just see more and more with him in the WDF.
Yeah, next game, look, horrible draw for both. Roby John over the line in a deciding leg. We're going to talk about him a little bit later on, though, as this weekend gets a little bit better. Another horrible draw for these two, Kim Hybrex and Stephen Bunting. Terrible performance from both, goes all the way. But they feel like two of the players on tour right now who are capable of producing, but just keep running into barriers that knock them down early in tournaments as well. If they get the chance to go deep, you feel like they're going to do something pretty good.
Yeah, I think both of them need that deep run, that confidence. There's always a lot of emotion with him every time we see him on stage, so you'd expect that to be more likely from Bunting. This wasn't a great game. However, the evening draw, as we see a lot of the time, there's a lot of those that neither of them would have wanted to meet each other, considering some of the opponents in that first round. This was certainly one of them. And hopefully we'll see them both push on, because both of which can be and have been top 16 before and can certainly break into that if they have them runs. It's just at the moment, there's the odd one or two weekends where we've seen that glimpse, but even then, the level at the top of the game is just too much for these at the moment to break into those deep runs, even in the Euro Tours.
Yeah. Next up, Danny Hansen, the mullet, getting the job done over Martijn Kleermaker. Doubles the difference in this one. That Kleermaker 1 from 9, Janssen 6 from 11. Again, though, nothing to write home about in the averages, 85 and 93. It seemed to be the story of this Friday session. Nathan Rafferty 6-3 win over Dragutin Horvat. Again, 88 plays 87. They're just looking for those moments of brilliance, and they're not really there. Adrian Lewis, Luke Woodhouse, good game. 5 from 14 and 6 from 14 on the doubles between them, both 91 average. Woodhouse was very, very good in the opening round last week and then dropped off a little bit the following day. It's a win that you expect from the Adrian Lewis of old, but given where he's been for the last 3-4 years, that's a tricky tie for him. And to get over the line last leg decider would have set him up okay.
I think after watching this was potentially a bigger win than his one overpriced last week because of the way he done it. It's easy at times for Adi to get motivated when he's playing the top 4, 6, 8 maybe in the world. It's these sort of games when it's getting to the deeper parts of the game where we've seen Adi fade away, unfortunately. And for him to get back, these are the games that he needs to get back to winning. And yes, he didn't have a deep run over the past 2 weekends, but there's wins in there for different reasons that can give him that motivation, that confidence. And this was probably the biggest one over recent history, I think, that can help Adi get over the line. It wasn't a great final lead, 17 darts, but still, 17 dart lead means your opponent under pressure is that a finishing 15, which at times can be very, very difficult to do. It wasn't a great scoring lead from either, but 180 was key in this one and in that final lead. And like I says, it was just a huge win for an Adi Lewis who isn't at the level that he can be.
Yeah, huge win as well for Johan Enstrom in the first round, beating Gabriel Clemens, another German on a little bit of a slide right now. Clemens better average by 5.5 points, but ultimately beaten in the last leg decider. And rounding off the Friday session, Danny Noppert, 6-3 win over Karel Sedlacek. Again, nothing spectacular, 6 from 19 on the doubles, but job done for the Dutchman, who's just lingering around at the minute, isn't he? He's not giving up early exits easily, and when he is, he's just accumulating those points and that prize money.
Yeah, spot on. We saw obviously the win early on in the year, the Open, but since then obviously he's had a new run into the family. Coming back then and following on and pushing on from that TV win. Yes, he hasn't done on and lifted as much more as he'd like to. However, it's getting to the deeper rounds, getting those runs consistently, getting to the Sunday on these Euro Tours. Not always done it, but still he's always seems to hold that line in the first round and picking up ranting money, which obviously puts him in a better position down into the back end of the year, which as for these players, it mainly starts from Blackpool onwards, doesn't it? So it's big to try and build that up to release the pressure in the back end of the year.
It is indeed. Saturday sees the seeds enter. Are we ready, Phill?
I'm struggling to get Luke in.
One job. Just sack it, right? Me and you, we'll go to Lakeside on our own.
So this is me trying to muck around here. Sorry, boys.
That's the intro.
I was ready for a waiver then.
Hello and welcome to the Live
not...
Lounge and myself, Jack Gobby Go and Lee Boyce and Phill Bars. It's Monday, it's 8:37. We've already been on the show for 36 minutes, but we're going again.
This is me trying to find an alternative way to get Luke in, and nothing's working.
Let's continue the Saturday afternoon results then. Damon Heta beating Mickey Mansell 6-5. Look, that'll be a little bit of a sigh of relief for Damon Heta, who's been beaten early on a number of times recently.
Yeah, and a lot of double trouble in this one from Damon Heta. From the form he was in a couple of months ago, when he was deep in Pro Tours, Euro Tours, that just doesn't seem to be there. Someone's just dropped off from his game recently, and we can see that from players. And how Damon can play, I'm fairly confident that we'll see him return to those levels again. And it's just getting it ready for, like I says, the Biddens there if he can progress through. This was a difficult one for him against Mickey Mansell, who put in a very good performance. Like I says, it was a good weekend, even though he didn't progress through to Sunday. But it was just Damon who edged over the line, and it was very much edging over the line.
We only lost 4 seeds all day on Saturday, but one of them was Dimitri Vandenberg. And I don't remember the last time we started discussing Dimmy doing something Dimmy-like, if for a want of a better phrase. There was 18 months ago to 2 years ago, Dimitri Vandenberg was one of the hottest properties in darts. He was the match play champion. He'd gone deep. Was it the Slam? The Slam?
Yes.
Or Grand Prix?
Yeah.
One of the two.
Slam, I believe.
It was a long time ago.
I believe.
And he was sort of having a decent run on the Euro Tour. And basically, if there was a camera there, Dimitri Vandenberg was playing well, but he's beaten by Joe Mernon 6-5 last leg decider. I'm just not sure where Dimmy's next big run's coming from right now.
Well, it's one we've spoken about, and I'm sure we'll talk about in more detail later on. But I've got a feeling it might help both players, for both Kim and Dimmy, with a World Cup coming up. Because if there's something that can spark something in both of those, it tends to be a World Cup and a good run, or something that sort of start that, we've seen it have an impact on Dimmy's run to the match play as well last year. Probably if there is one tournament that both of them players need right now, it is that one. Just someone to give them both that little nudge, and it can potentially then have an upturn, because we know the levels it needs. He's a world-class individual, and it's just at the moment there's just something missing. But I don't want to take anything away from Joe Mernon, because it was a very, very good win against Dimitri. It wasn't an awful performance from Dimmy by any stretch. However, it was a very, very good one for Joe Mernon, especially under a situation of playing a seed on Saturday quite early on. It was a good win.
Would it be the most Belgian thing ever that normally one of the two are in good form heading into the World Cup, and you're looking at the other one going, can they step up? Last year it was Dimmy in really good form heading into the event. Kim was the better player once they got there, etc. The year before, Dimmy was the better player. Kim was struggling a bit. Would it be the most Belgian thing in the world for them to both be carrying absolutely no form and then rock up and win the World Cup?
Without doubt. Without doubt. Because we say, obviously, with a lot of the countries, there is a lot of passion there, and there's a different emotion, there's a different feeling, because darts is an individual game. 11 months and 3 weeks of the year, there's just that one tournament where you are doing it for someone else or plenty of other people, and we do see different emotions and teams. We would have predicted Austria get into the final last year with a form that Mensah and Roby were coming in with. They could be that team this year. because as a partnership they do work very well ever since they've been together, and Dimmy split up the Hybrex brothers. We have seen it, and God says it might be something they both need. However, the flip side of that, an early exit in a doubles game, and it could be a completely different story, and it could make them both a lot worse. But if they get through that one doubles, certainly both of them can put those performances on in a short format. Dimmy better than probably over the past 2 years. Is there anyone who's been better in that very short format? We've seen him at the Slam. It can happen at a flick of a switch.
Can indeed. Ryan Selby's Adam Gowlas 6-2. Daryl Gurney makes it through the first round yet again, 6-4 over Eddie Lovely. Andrew Gilding continues his resurgence in form, beating Jose de Souza again. No, both players sub 90 on that one. 87 plays 84. But next up, Christoph Ratajski. Look, been a lot of talk about his form, about his throw, but it's literally 100 average, 99 point whatever, and he's 100% on the doubles against Kim Hybrex, beating him 6-2.
It's not bad, is it? The problem is, and we say every week, we're speaking about Ratajski, it's just consistency. The level it can hit, and this isn't even the top end of it, but it's just the fact he's hitting 100 or 100 plus, and then he's following up with an 88 or a 92 or something around that mark. The doubling was sensational. Yes, the following day he come into difficult opponents and sort of had a bit of his own medicine done in the next game, but there's not a lot you can do when someone's finishing the way that Ratajski was. I think it was 5 out of ring and then 1 ball in there. It was just a sensational finishing display from the Polish Eagle.
Soaring is what he does. Brendan Dolan, 6-4 win over the mullet. Danny Janssen, pretty standard in that one. And then Rob Cross starts yet another quest on the Euro Tour, if you like, with a 6-5 win over Jelle Klassen. Again, not the best performance from Rob Cross, but enough to get the job done in that tight moment against Jelle, who doesn't have his tour card, so isn't doing this week in, week out anymore.
Yeah. Opportunity for Jelle to get the better of Rob Cross. Rob Cross was outstanding in the final leg. He found a leg that got him over the line, but pre that, it was an opportunity missed for me for Jelle Klassen to push on and progress to Sunday. As you said, there's not the same amount of opportunities now. He's lost that tour card, so a regret from this weekend is Jelle not being able to progress.
Indeed. Evening session, Roby John doing an absolute job on Joe Cullen, another one of the Premier League players that struggled a little bit this weekend. 6-1 win for him again. Sub 90 average from Roby John, but he's just got this knack of winning on the Euro Tour at the minute, as has this man, Luke Humphries, 97 average to beat Ryan Meikle. Perhaps frustrated a little bit by the picks throughout, but done enough in that final leg to make sure that he continued the final day. Johnny Clayton, there was a moment of 4-2 when A.D. Lewis missed a load of doubles that would have got him back into this one. A little bit edgy, a little bit A.D. Lewis, I suppose, is the best way to describe it. And Johnny makes the most of that one to put himself into Sunday session.
Yeah, it's just a huge win for AD for me on Friday. It's just unfortunate. No one would have expected AD to beat Johnny Clayton if Johnny Clayton was performing what we've seen over the Premier League for 15 weeks. The fact that Johnny didn't and AD didn't push him enough as what he should, it will be a disappointment. But for me, there is steps in the right direction for Lewis. They're probably not as big a steps as he would like, but he's looking better and more himself for me on stage, which Adrian Lewis in full flow can only be good for darts.
We said that a million times.
Whether it's controversial, whether it's brilliance, whether there's just, there's celebration, there's checkouts, there's the 180s, obviously he's one of the best. And a lot would argue, if not the best, when he's in full flow. There's so much that he brings, but he's got to be at the top of his game to bring it. Otherwise, we do see the drop that we've seen here against Johnny.
This is where I definitely should write notes over the weekend. Was it this weekend that Lewis missed a dart at the double for the 9? Did he go 8 perfect this weekend?
No, I thought that was last. It was last.
This is why I should write notes. It's in there somewhere. I just can't remember when or where it was. Next up, look, another Premier League player struggling massively. It wasn't brilliant from Van Gerwen earlier in the week, losing to Michael Smith, and this was far from brilliant again. This was a little bit like the Mickey Mansell performance from last weekend, except he just didn't have the scoring power to keep giving him chances. Just 1 from 14 on the outer ring for Michael Van Gerwen, and Martin Lukeman took every chance handed to him, basically 6 from 16 for his finishing, but he was a little bit further back in a lot of the legs and was just handed them on a plate.
Yeah, it's someone punishing Michael because of Michael missed them, but Adam Dorlas and Martin Lukeman have got to be 2 people who are absolutely buzzing right now that the Euro Tour's back and in full swing, because they are 2 players, apart from your Humphries, Cross, MVG, maybe you have got to either a number of finals or done on and won it. Those 2 players are performing absolute wonders on this. Martin Lukeman, we've seen him play better on Euro Tours, but to then come off the stage beating MVG 6-1, which what we've seen from Michael over the past few months. But then it's a bit like Joe Tullen with the Premier League earlier. It doesn't show the averages when it shows the 6-1 result. And Martin Lukeman, it's a great win, if not his best win this year in regards to individual performance. So, yeah, Michael missed plenty, but to be there and punish, it's another step. It's a big win. It's underdog getting through. We'll talk about the performance of the big players coming into weekends like this later on, but nothing for me can be taken away from Martin Lukeman because he's just done and punished, as we've spoken about plenty of times with MVG doing to other players.
Same story, pretty much, in terms of enjoying being back, having the Euro Tour back for Martin Schindler. Seeded this weekend in the 16th spot, 6-2 defeat over Madas Rasma. Solid from Shindy as he continues to be on the Euro Tour once again. Peter Wright, job done over Johan Enstrom with some shiny new news, a new ring grip at the back with, I don't even know what the grip at the front was called. It's like got little dots on it, indents, craters, however you want to describe it, but Peter Wright with the job done. Danny Noppert beat Michael Smith in another belter. These 2, Lee, are having a little bit of a, I don't want to say rivalry, but when they meet, they're producing at both ends of the game, aren't they? They had that UK Open final where it wasn't brilliant really from either player, but Noppert gets over the line. Smith gets revenge on the Pro Tour the other weekend. Then they meet again here. They're having some good battles at both ends of the scale, performance-wise. They both get drawn into a scrap. It's edgy. It's good. When they're both brilliant, they're both on it. They don't give each other any mind games or anything. They just play the game.
Yeah, we've got the top dame at the moment is MVG Johnny Clayton. For me, when you're just facing 2 people together and the quality of game we see, whether it be the drama, quality, all that, this is probably the next one on the tour at the moment that always seems to provide a great performance from both or a similar level from both. In this one, it was probably the best quality on the Saturday. Hard to argue with any of the others, really, that shone as both players performing as a can. And I think there'll be plenty more between these 2 because they seem to get whatever it is, they seem to get not always the best out of each other, but they always seem to compete at the same level. Whether it's smashing 100 plus or mid 90s, they always seem to be there. That it's a tight game, and it is a very, very enjoyable watch.
It is indeed, as was this final game. I thought Nathan Rafferty, with arguably the performance of the day, 101 average from the youngster, defeating Dirk van Dijvenbode 6-3. Plenty of maximum, big checkout, decent finishing stats from both, but the youngster getting the job done over Dirk. Massive, massive result for Nathan Rafferty.
Yeah, highly spoken about individual, young, lot of talent, and it's another one. These experience, what people have missed with Euro Tours, are going to help certain individuals, and Rafty's going to be one of those who. It's hard to take because playing someone like Dirt with that wart on when you're already stood on stage can have an impact on how you play your game, without a doubt. There's a crowd right behind him early on, and we can see that. But it was a sensational performance from Nathan Rafty to beat Dirt, who seems to be getting better on TV, getting more back to where he was in COVID times. So great win for Nathan, but I love that wart on. Absolutely love that wart on. He's got to be the first player. He's got to be the first player that I can think of who's already on the stage before his name has been called out. I don't think I've ever seen it before. But on his walk on Saturday, he was on the stage.
It never used to. It used to have the normal walk down the aisle, but we saw it in. Was it in Budapest the other week, or was it in Magdeburg? One of the two exhibitions. He legged it on stage with that little lad that both bumped about to it. It's just different, isn't it? You don't have to like the music. You can appreciate just what Dirk has to do to get himself going, what he feels like, and what he gets a reaction with.
I love seeing it. I know Phil's not the same, but it's great. It's great. And the fact he's there, like says, a guy moving at that speed, I wish I could. Does he soon? That's
He's a lovable
If
child.
I'm a security guard, I'm getting out of the way, by the way, because if I'm stood in front of the steps stopping people coming, Dirk's what, 6'2", 6'3", very wide. If he starts going down that aisle, someone's getting flattened.
My worry is if he misses the first step.
Would it stop him? He'd just be lying on the floor doing it instead.
He's just getting absolutely KO'd.
Waldos.
First of all, everyone, just a little apology. We're not going to have Luke tonight. We can't get, literally, I don't know why, but we're going to do a Zoom with him tomorrow now instead for you. So he can still have his say and everything. So we'll still get him to you just a few hours behind what we were hoping.
Can't tell me off for saying his internet's crap there either. Perfect.
It's not his internet, to be fair. For some reason, it's the browser won't let him open the link. And I've tried about 5 different browsers with him. Yeah, your guess is as good as mine.
Laura. Back to you, Doctor. You can take us through the Sunday session.
Oh, that's very kind of you. Thank you very much. Moving on to the Sunday. Martin against Martin. Lukeman against Schindler. And you can't help but think it was the 12th man of the German crowd that got Schindler through this one.
And the Euro Tour for home nation players.
Wasn't their best, but Schindler wins it in a deciding leg. There's a theme here. Another deciding leg. Damon Heta beats Ryan Searle 6-5. Nearly just about to clip 102 the average from Heta. This was more like the Damon Heta we'd seen in the Pro Tour, not the last few Euro Tours where he's had first round defeats, but it was Heat who went on. This was a weird game. Roby John was just nowhere near his best in this Euro Tour, but found a way to win games. And again, 6-3 over Super Chin, averaging 88.
I mean, you'll take it and you'll run with it every single day of the week, but there is concerns about just how often that level of performance is winning games at Pro Tour and Euro Tour level right now. There has to be.
We're gonna come on to that shortly, but yeah, look, there's something not quite right at the moment. Then another very good game, this one, and when you look at the numbers, Boise, Christoph Ratajski's averaged 106.5 and lost 6-4 to Bobby.
Yeah, Ratajski done it Saturday, had it back to him on Sunday. There was just a point in this, the finishing at 4-2 down when Rob Cross pinned treble 18, double 18 with Ratoisti sitting on 80, and then followed up the following leg with a 170 there's something there that just shown it was Tossi's game. Ratoisti, I think at the point was 12 points in front of him at the average. I think it finished about 7 or 8, but it just showed those moments. Cliche like saying right things at the right time, but it was those 2 legs that just spun that round in the way of Rob Cross to then do and push on, because there were 2 massive legs and 2 great checkouts. What a celebration as well! I haven't seen that sort of emotion from Cross on a stage for quite a while. He always shows a little bit, but when that 170 dropped, there was an awful lot, and when he got over the line at the end as well.
How do you hit a ton every leg, or an average a ton every leg, better than a 140 every leg, and chuck 3 180s in there and still lose 6-4?
Yeah, bonkers. Moving into the bottom half, Brendan Dolan ended Andrew Gilding's run, a 6-3 win. Again, sub-averages in this one. There's a theme which we will talk about later on in the show. Luke Humphries, Joe Mernon, again, nothing to write home about. Finally, we had something half decent. Peter Wright, a 6-1 winner over Johnny Clayton, averaging 103. It gets better, but obviously that's a very, very tidy performance from Snakebite with these new darts, which he wasn't meant to use until New York.
It needed something. I think this performance hurt the results, obviously, at Clayton, but the performance probably hurt Joe Cullen more than it did Johnny Clayton, because Peter Wright hasn't anything of the sorts, really. Coming into this Thursday, Joey's would have been favourite on current form. This performance would have hurt Joe a lot more than anyone else, because if he can find that on Thursday, it's a completely different game than what the Peter Wright we've seen currently. It was a more confident Peter Wright. There was some change in the way we've seen him play recently. I've mentioned it a few times about his just general persona and how he seems to be, but there was just something in that one. Something flipped a switch, and it was the Peter Wright that we've seen go on and lift a world title. It was a very all-round good performance from Snakebite. And like I says, worrying times for Joe after this, but made it more interesting, certainly.
And then Danny Noppert sealed a place in the quarterfinals, 6-4 over Nathan Rafferty. Both ton plus averages, very good from both Gob. And look, we've said it for a long, long time. Nathan Rafferty has a huge, huge future in this sport. We all said once he got his tour card, he'd be all right. Now he's got it. He's showing why everyone was speaking about him.
Yeah, he's producing good level performances. Obviously, that next step is consistency and how often you do produce it. But he's showing where his ceiling game is at the minute, and he's another one of an incredibly talented crop of players under the age of 25 that are starting to ply their trade as full-time professional dart players.
Yeah, absolutely. Then moving into the evening session, Cup Collection session. Used to be Cup Collection Day, but now it's Cup Collection session on the Euro Tour. Martin Schindler run come to an end, and again, you look at the averages. Schindler's averaged 99 and lost in a deciding leg to Damon Heta. He moved into the semi-finals. Also coming down, Rob Cross defeats Roby John 6-4. Luke Humphries absolutely demolises Brendan Dolan 6-0, averaging 100. The reason I'm zipping through these one quickly because we have to talk about this bottom one. We've just spoken about Wright in the last one. Where the effing hell has this come from? Over the last 5-6 weeks, we have seen no indication that this is going to come. But Peter Wright beats Danny Noppert 6-1, averaging 111.16. Noppert's averaged 104 himself, Gob. Where has that come from?
Must be the darts. Must be the darts. If he goes on now, qualifies through the Premier League this week, goes to New York, picks up the title, returns and wins the Premier League in a couple of weeks, all with these darts, they are going to fly off the shelf because everybody's going to think they're magic.
Yeah, they'll fly off the shelf and then not be used again by Peter. You know how it works.
I'll tell you what, by the way, if I worked in marketing for Winmore Red Dragon, I'd have to wear like a crash helmet constantly. Because every single time they do something for Peter Wright, he goes and breaks it early, changes his mind too quickly, or you can't push it. I'd constantly be walking around, smacking my head against a brick wall. At that point, you just need some padding.
To be fair, I was chatting to the guys over in South Wales. These darts have actually been in the making for a long time. They've been tweaking, testing. So this design and dart has actually been in the making for a long, long time. And this is how they've got them to. But like I said, they were meant to be the New York dart, but they've come out a little bit early. I dropped a message on our WhatsApp chat at Thursday. He was handed them half an hour before play on Thursday.
I wish. I just wish.
But semi-finals, Bobby Cross was having none of it. He was like, hang on a minute. If you can do that, I'm going to have a bash at this as well. Cross averages 110 in a 7-4 victory over Damon Heta, Boise.
Yeah, if only the Euro Tour had an impact on the Premier League, we could see a different lineup next year, because he's certainly fighting back currently. The performances he's putting in week out on this are of a high quality, but this one was special. We've seen a drop. We've seen probably the announcement have a bit of an impact on Rob Cross, but he's getting back. There is signs that we are seeing Cross at a level of then. And normally when Cross is at his best, it's normally those 18s that are being absolutely punished. I talked about one of the checkouts that he done against Ratoisti, the 90 out. But that the double 18, when that's on, we know that Cross is on. It's normally a telltale sign of how good he's performing when he's pinning them in for fun. But it was a great performance from Rob Cross, and not a lot that Damon Heta could do. Spoke about him dropping off currently, but there wasn't an awful lot that he could do to get into this one. Only had 6 opportunities at a double.
One thing we often speak about, the Rob Cross action, this weekend it looked amazing. That there was that snap in the action. We all know the dart is quite loose in his hand. We know that. But that snap was there, and they were just sitting up perfectly to attention all weekend. And that's the Bobby that won the match play, the World Championship. When the darts are pinging up straight like soldiers, like they were, standing to attention, he's dangerous. And just think, he's won everything that he's won. Spoiler alert. He still hasn't won a Euro Tour event.
That's mad. The fact he's won the European Championship, by the way, without winning a European Tour, it's just stupid.
You've won the match play, you've won the Worlds, you've not won a Euro Tour event. It's one of dart's little anomalies that's just absolutely brilliant. And I've just had a message through as well. Speaking of Mr. Rob Cross, Rab is watching us as well. Good to have you on board, Rab, as always. Just drop me a little message. Second semi-final. Again, Luke Humphries take a bow, averaging 108 to Peter Wright's 99 in a 7-4 victory. Job.
Tidy. tidy indeed. Not a lot you can do about that. When Luke Humphries turns up, that only 50% on the doubles as well. Averages 108. And at this point in the tournament, by the way, he still hadn't hit a ton plus checkout. He'd made the final without hitting one.
Mad. Moving on to that final, spoiler alert, because the picture is going up. But what a final it was. It went all 15 legs, both of them averaging over the ton mark. Luke Humphries takes out 108 with Rob Cross sat on tops. That is a hell of a set of stones from anyone, Boise, to do that when your opponent is there waiting to put pants and you do that.
Yeah, it's unbelievable from Luke Humphries to go back-to-back in these Euro Tours, to then do it in that against the throw. There was just that one. We spoke about how Doug Cross's throw is, or has been this weekend. Just that one downfall, that 43, second or third visit, just seemed to have a bit of an effect and seemed to lift Luke a little bit more. But to then go out on that 108 with Cross on tops, and let's be honest, I think if Cross would have had them three, we'd have expected him to take out those, how well he's played. Same would have applied if Humphries would have been on tops and it'd have been the other way around. So it's a sensational performance from Luke, but a lot of credit to Rob Cross to go back-to-back weekends. As I said, all the praise to Luke in regards to winning these back-to-back. But for Rob to now go back-to-back in Euro Tour finals after still not winning one, it's a lot of confidence. And if you can carry that on when we enter the July onwards and we see this form, there's got to be a TV tournament winning there if he continues to play the way he is, because he's playing too good at the minute, especially when we're seeing a few of the top players not maintaining that level week in, week out. There's opportunities there for Cross, as there is for the man on our screen now, who continues to impress.
Yeah.
Just hope, just one thing to Luke. I just hope it's not impeding too soon this year. I just hope it's not the case, because we know that the back end of the year has an impact, a huge impact, and the start of next year on the Premier League, which is where Luke is aiming towards and he's driven towards. Just hope he can continue this, because we'll see some top quality finals as this one was.
Look, after this weekend, the order of merit, Rob Cross is 10, Luke Humphries is up to 13. But again, because the way the ranking is done right now, in that top 10, for me, both of these two are playing better than Dimitri, Jose, and Gary. Right now, these two are showing top 10, top 8 form.
Easily.
Yeah.
I'd probably put Danny Noppert in that conversation as well. Maybe just a tier below them, but I don't think he's a million miles behind these two.
No, I agree. But before we move on to start previewing, obviously, all this week's action and stuff like that, it's a very topical thing, and it was spoken about on Twitter an awful lot over the weekend. The overall standard right now, we've seen it more and more in the Premier League. The Premier League used to be the elite, and we used to see these massive averages week on week. But on the Euro Tour and the Premier League, we are seeing more sub 95 averages and knocking down even sub 90 averages. God, where are we at the moment? And are we in a bit of a reset period? Because look, the standard 2016, 17, 18 was off the scale when we had Phill towards the back end of his career, but still doing bits. Michael and Gary going at it. Where are we right now?
I think there's a little bit of lack of motivation, maybe, because there isn't that one dominant force right now for everybody to chase. Everybody's like, there's a lack of urgency from everybody else. There doesn't seem to be anybody that's got that desire and that level that they can just go out and dominate the field like Phill Taylor did, like Van Gerwen did, like Price did to a certain extent, where we've had that little bit of a changeover. Peter Wright likes tinkering. Gezi has his favourite events, his preferred events, and they aren't the Premier League. And there is an awful lot of darts right now. The Euro Tour's returned incredibly frequently at the minute, so what it feels like. Plus, we've had a significant amount of Pro Tours to get to this point because of the amount of just events you have to get through to have a decent pool for qualification for your TV events as they start to approach. next year. Your Premier League players are probably playing more matches than ever before because of that change in format. And look, there is a high demand to see these guys as well. There is commercial opportunities. You cannot ignore the amount of the top 16 guys that are seeded that are playing on a Thursday night in the Premier League, or the other week when we had Pro Tours on a Tuesday and Wednesday, and instead of going to the venue, relaxing, getting themselves set up, they're flying to a different part of the world, doing an exhibition on the Friday night in Europe, and then going to their European tour on a Saturday. And by that point, they've made the money for the weekend. Especially with the fees that some of them can charge for exhibition events. You've seen how many people have been at some of the ones we've seen on social media over the last few weeks from all companies and whatever else that they can put on. There is such demand for these guys in Europe. That's why the Euro Tour exists, and these exhibitions are just picking up where these emerging markets are and plugging the gap right now where the PDC can't get enough events in there or can't satisfy what they need for their size of event. And these guys they're making their money for the weekend. They're getting to a point where they're pretty comfortable in rankings wise on the European Tour. They don't need to do an awful lot to change where they are in the world rankings. That will come when the TV events start hitting the back end of the year. And perhaps they're just schedule managing and going through the motions, knowing that the match play is where the rest of their season starts.
But, Boise, is there a danger that when you take your eye off the ball, which potentially some of them may not, it may just be fatigue, trying to flick that switch for the match play is potentially a hard thing to do? Because, yes, some of the greats can just turn it on and off like a tap. But if it's not there, if you're just stuttering a little bit just to try and flick that for the match play, it's a dangerous game to play.
Very, very dangerous. And even more so for me is that there is a lot of Euro tours at the minute, and we have saw an outstanding back end quarter-final, semi-final, final yesterday, but then predominantly wasn't a great week in regards to standard on Premier League and that. We've got now after this weekend, there's some of the players who are going to be down to Blackpool who have only got 5 probably Players' Championships, I think, before the match play, but are there already and won't be playing anything else and will be down in there fresh, where a lot of these top players are going to be travelling the world. We've got the World Series coming up. I think we've got one more Euro Tour before match play. So, sorry, 2 more before it, one early July. I do think there is problems for some of these players, like a Gary, who we know can flick it on, and like it says, there will be that one performance there, but the number of that is growing, and it's not just that one player, it's more and more. And that's why the credit deserves to go to someone like Luke and Rob, who's been getting there back to back. But there is question marks at the minute about the standard generally, because I think DARTS is in a fantastic place in regards to look outside of the PDC. The DARTS has probably never been in a better place than it is worldwide from amateur level up. Standard-wise at PDC, I just don't think it's where it has been, like you said, 4 or 5 years ago, especially at the top part of that. There is still a bit of a difference between your top players and your top sort of 8 and down, top 10 and down, but the high end of that isn't the same as it was 4 or 5 years ago, unfortunately. But it can come back, and I'm sure it will come back.
Whilst we're on this subject, though, is it a coincidence or is it linked that you look at Rob and Luke in particular, because they're the 2 that are thriving right now, that 1, they're not playing Premier League, 2, they're not doing all the exhibitions. Yes, they've done a few, but they've not done the amount that the others have got. And you look at the likes, Peter Wright has been ill, Gezi injured, MVG inconsistent, James Wade ill, Gary just Gary. Right? There's a theme here that the ones that are trying to do everything and cram everything in are flagging and getting ill, picking up injuries, yet the ones that are managing their schedule to a degree but not trying to overkill themselves are thriving.
Yeah, and there's a couple more points to add to Luke and Rob in particular. They're two that have taken an interest in their physical health in the last 18 months. Rob Cross it's no secret that first year or so on tour took him by surprise a little bit, I think. And after the World Championships, he had that lull for 6 months, and he gone, actually, I need to sort it out. The change in Luke Humphries from when I was competing against him on the development tour to now, the amount of weight he's lost, the way he's opened up about mental health is superb. So it's absolutely no surprise that those two who are looking after themselves are in a lot better position than some of the top guys as well. And they've got points to prove. They both feel they should have been in the Premier League last year. And while the rest of the Premier League are stuttering here, there, and everywhere,
one of them should have been. There's no question about that.
Yeah.
And just to add to that, when we talked about the performances, just looking at the calendar up until the match play, there's 2 Euro Tours and 5 Players' Championships for Rob and Luke. Other than that, the calendar is full of events that neither of those will be competing in, whether it being a World Series event, whether it being World Cup. All these are going to add to it. And we coming in fresh, these two are going to be in a very, very good position. Yes, Luke would probably prefer the match play to be tomorrow because of him having back-to-back weekends and him in outstanding form. But there's a lot of these players who are going to be travelling the world in the next 8 weeks where Luke and Rob can prepare, as well as wanting to prove a point, puts them in a very, very strong position. Yes, they'd both rather be in New York, I'm sure, and both would rather be in a Premier League playoff final. But actually looking at the rest of this year, it's not a bad position for both of them to be in.
Well, look, you think about all the air miles that the Premier League guys in particular are racking up, and the fact that the World Cup is before the match play this year, plus the fact they're doing Holland, America, and Scandinavia as well before
Copenhagen to Berlin,
Copenhagen,
to Edenhausen,
the World Cup,
to Frankfurt.
Yeah. Let's think back a couple of years ago. Phill Taylor withdrew from one of the World Series events.
No, he didn't.
To
he had
make
a stomach
sure
issue.
He had a stomach Phill Taylor withdrew, knowing that everybody else was racking up the air miles. And how fresh did he look at that World Match play? How jaded did everybody else look? There's already... Okay. Phill was ill. Phill was ill, which worked out in his favour because he was fresh for the match.
James Wade just happened to be in Vegas and had his visa all sorted out. I'm sorry.
Yeah. It worked in Phil's favour, as the official line went. And
completely.
Just how much better did he look than everybody else that had to do all that? You think about the fact some of the players are already saying they're tired, picking and choosing on Pro Tours or picking and choosing on Euro Tours. The next couple of months are the events where they're hand-picked by the PDC. Saying no isn't really an option for these guys now, because we've seen with Michael Smith in the past, we've seen with Adrian Lewis in the past, if you speak out or say you don't want to do something, the chance of you getting back there takes a couple of years to do, no matter how marketable you are right now. These guys have got to go and do the air miles. They've got to go and do the World Series. They've got to go and do the World Cup.
When Adrian said no to Australia, I don't think he's played a World Series since.
Exactly. And that they've got to go and put in all these air miles for the next few months, travelling. Plus, look, the World Series, as much as they may not be the biggest thing here in the UK, delayed darts club, hashtag whatever, why are you tweeting at the same time the results are going on? That's literally the biggest concern in the UK. The amount of press and media these guys do while they're in these countries, they're on a 3-day press packet before they even pick up a dart.
I've seen the media schedule for New York. Ridiculous. Great, but they are everywhere. They've got media at the Eiffel Tower, at the Statue of Liberty, Rockefeller, you name it. They are going there. They are absolutely everywhere in New York promoting the sport. And like you say, yes, the World Series isn't appreciated in the UK and it's laughed and it's mimicked, but for growing darts, the World Series is absolutely huge. But I agree with you, and there's no coincidence that Johnny Clayton and obviously Luke's not even there, but he's having this weekend off. Johnny Clayton is missing Zwalla. I'm still amazed that on the list right now for Zwalla this weekend, the top 3 or top 4 are all going. I'm amazed that they're doing it.
Still time. They're still before the finable period because they can still chuck extra home nation qualifiers in. So,
right. One of them, if not 2 of them, can't, because I know one of them. Their flights for New York are set. They are flying Monday from Amsterdam to Lisbon, Lisbon to New York, because they couldn't get back to London to fly direct in time. So they booked their flights. So certainly one of them is committed. He's got to go because the way his flights to New York are scheduled.
That's crazy. It's crazy that we're in this position. Yes, this is professional sport. Yes, they are making an awful lot of money out of these situations. That's just the way it is. And they're being recognised because they are the more noticeable stars of the game, if you like. It's easier to brand it elsewhere. So they're being rewarded for work done previously, and they're getting a financial reward for putting themselves through this. But it's at the point where we're going, at what detriment to their season? And is that payoff worth it?
No, I agree. Evening to Shawnee Mack and Scotty Walters are in the chat room, as always. Nice to have you on board. Right, we are going to have to move on. It's a great debate, and we could talk about this so much more. And we will do when the schedule isn't absolutely chaos like it is now. But this coming weekend, God, this one's your baby. We have the World Seniors Masters. I want to say the match play. I knew it was wrong. The World Seniors
the fact is M&M back to back is getting a little bit tweeting going. Which one?
Yeah. We'll return to the lakeside.
We do. Well, you say return to. I've never been, so this will be an experience for me.
No, it will. It will, though. Trust me.
Yeah.
I can guarantee that.
Not in a good
But
way
I am looking forward to it.
Who is pros?
There's a bar.
I wouldn't drink from that.
I think.
Not if you like yeast.
The buzz around the Circus Tavern was brilliant. I think the fact that the Premier League's been slap bang in the middle of this has probably taken a little bit of attention away from the seniors. But the fact we've got this, then we've got a week off, then we've got the Reading qualifier for the match play in Hull. The next few weeks is going to be a lot of attention on the seniors, especially once we get a trophy on this one and the attention that comes with it with a TV tournament. Really, really looking forward to it. I think the lineup is great. All 3 players that have qualified through the qualifiers that I was at Reading at are more than capable of going on to win this trophy. And there's plenty of stories underneath this. Look, Painter versus Thornton was a semi-final last time out. There's a potential that it could be first round if Painter can beat David Cameron, who was at the Lakeside, 4-5 weeks ago, competing at the WDF World Championship. The fact he just nipped across, qualified, and then disappeared again. He was paying for Ubers between Lakeside and Reading to get there and back on the Friday and the Saturday. Qualified, didn't have to do so again on the Sunday, but yeah, looking forward to that one. Be good to see Colin Monk back on TV. Bob Anderson, Keith Deller. I just want another moment from Bob Anderson. That 180 was the moment of the tournament last time. Absolutely brilliant. But I'm expecting big things from Keith Deller. Put a lot of practice in last time, but it wasn't match practice. And this time, I know he's been back to play Super League. He's playing a lot more local competitions as well. Lots of best of 5 stuff, which should set him up nicely for this. Short set, cutthroat, got to be on it from dart number 1. Terry Jenkins, Richie Howson is an absolute stormer of a prelim round for the right to play Trina Gulliver. And to be honest, whoever wins that, I can see going deep enough to potentially even a semi-final from there. Martin Adams is... I'd love to see him fully fit. I'm a little bit concerned about the leg that was playing up a little bit last time. Struggled in the live league in his appearance after that. He'll play either Roland Shelton or Wayne Jones. Looking forward to that one. Lisa Ashton, Tony O'Shea should be a really good game. I think Lisa is in a better place now than she was at the Circus Tavern. John Lowe, Les Wallace should be pretty interesting. And then Phil Taylor takes on either Paul Lim or John Park. That's a tasty little part of the draw there. Paul Lim, the fans vote winner, which went down really well as well. So yeah, really looking forward to a trip to the lakeside and what could happen over the 3 or 4 days. I'm traveling down Thursday lunchtime to make sure that I'm there in good time. Lee will be joining me Thursday evening. Which means there's a chance for the first time ever. No, it can't be, because we will be hosting the Fallout Bar together in the same place somehow.
Yes, we will.
Because that's just the dedicated professionals that we are.
Correct.
I like that.
If there is alcohol available, though, we might help ourselves, but you never know. Yeah. Yeah, we're gonna try and run it together in the same room and have a conversation about it. We just got to set up. I'll bring my webcam, see what we can do with it, and go from there.
It's not a bad night to have the first Fallout Bar to Devat, considering yes, there's votes on one day, but not a bad one to have. But back to the seniors, Dob. A few questions just in the chat room, and I would touch on them later around TV coverage and format.
Right. Trying to get all this in graphic format, which is why it's not on social media yet. It'll be on BT Sport in the UK. That was announced a long time ago. It's staying on Sport 1 in Germany, and the rest of the world will be via pay-per-view once again. Links to come later in the week. Format, let me just get it up for you so I don't make a mistake. We are returning to set play best of 3 legs, which is the old Masters format, and because of that we're playing slightly more sets than we did at the World Championship per match, but I'm just getting the
big fan of the best of 3s, like the old Masters.
It is best of 3s. I'm just getting it so I know exactly which rounds. I'm pretty sure the prelim, the first round, and the quarterfinals are first to 4 sets. The semi-final is first to 5 sets, and the final is first to 6 sets. Best of 11. Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, look, I like that. There's some interesting potential stories in the draw as well. Look, we know it doesn't always work out that way, but who wouldn't love Martin Adams, Phill Taylor in the semi-final from the bottom half, and the top half is again wide open. And again, in the chat room, Henry, how dare you? He makes it sound as if I was causing trouble.
How dare you, sir?
How dare you?
I pretended to listen. I pretended to listen to him for 7 days.
So, early predictions for the seniors. Who are you going for then, boys?
You know what? This is worse. Now we've seen most of them. Because last time it was a bit of a, if he turns up, or if he plays like he used to, or he does this. Like, the taunt of the performance that Phill put in and his taunt afterwards. And we've seen him, was it last week in an exhibition in Germany? Germany he was? Yeah. The standard in the World Seniors, for me, surpassed what I expected. But if he can maintain a 94 throughout, it puts him in a great position. And he's a player who you don't want to write off. It's just, can he do it? Because Part of me thinks there's a repeat of what we saw before. It's just hopefully that injury of Martin Adams isn't as bad, or it's done. I'm not sure of the state of Martin currently with his leg. But if Martin's performing to the standard he was, that I know Dob mentioned about the Bob Anderson thing, the point being the standouts. The one for me was though the Martin Adams, was it 5 ton plus checkouts then to Richie House, and I'm so happy he's back here because he didn't deserve that. He put in, it was great to qualify. It was great.
Yeah, but then he's got to draw Terry Jenkins, who was just solid last time out. It's like, man can't catch a break.
But I'm just glad he's back because that performance from Martin Adams will be something that will stick with me, especially as someone who's grown up watching Martin Adams and meeting him, speaking to him more that weekend and just being an all-round really nice bloke. To then down the stage and put that performance in was just unreal. So for me, with Rich the Heart rolling the head, I can see a bit of a repeat of the final that we saw in the World Seniors Championship. And I can see Thornton and Martin Adams meeting again. But there's still big question marks on both. There's Painter will want his revenge on Thornton. And the fact that Painter will have had a game under his belt, if he gets through it, that's if he gets through it, to Dobbs' point, David Cameron will put up a fight. If they can let through that first game, I then think we'll see a repeat. And I'm down for Thornton to win back-to-back titles.
Oof. Ooh. Where are you going, Gob?
I think Thornton loses first round, regardless of who wins that first match. Painter and Cameron.
Bold.
I think the winner of that beats Colin Monk and is in the semi-final. I think the winner of Terry Jenkins or Richie Howson makes the semi-final via Trina Gulliver and Keith Deller. I think we see Wayne Jones play Lisa Ashton. And I think we might see Lisa in a semi-final. And I think we get a 7-setter between John Part and Phill Taylor, and I'm just not sure which way it goes. And the winner of that comes through Wallace or Lowe to make the other semi-final against Lisa Ashton.
To that 7-setter on Friday night, last time on, I don't think it helps the fact that John Part would have already played, where sometimes it can be an advantage. But if it does 7 sets, I think it does.
Especially if he goes deep against Part as well. If that's the 4-2, and then he's got 2 games to recover and then goes again against Taylor, that might be a little bit. But I am going to back either Jenkins or Howson, whichever one wins that first round game.
Someone's sitting on the fence.
I was going to say, do you want some tweezers to get those splinters out?
The look on Phil's face says he's between 3 players as well, so don't give me that, Baz.
No.
Phil's between.
I'm glad I've just sat there. He's well happy.
Phil's between 18.
Away with it. Don't then start piling on.
No, right. Mine's comfortable. So Thornton will play Keith Deller in the semi-finals. Thornton wins. Martin Adams will play Phill Taylor in the semi-finals. Phill Taylor wins. And Taylor wins the final.
Oh, Phil, you've gone on reputation.
I've been chatting to Phil on WhatsApp, and he feels good and he feels ready.
Can I just add to that?
I know his results from last weekend.
If your prediction is right, Phill, and we still Phill Taylor, Martin Adams in a semi-final, I'll be happy Sunday evening, whatever happens, because I'd love to see them two compete then on a stage, TV stage. That would be my dream semi.
Yeah.
You'd have the semi.
This is Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Shawnee Mac thinks there'll be a Taylor backlash. Paul in the fans pick. Yeah. So that is that one.
Phill, before we move on, can we get someone to come off that fence and tell us who he thinks he's going to win the...
That's a good point.
14,
I want a winner. Look, it's going to be the winner of this one. Who wins that game?
Richie Howson wins the title. I've been in Reading both times and I've been in Newbury. His scoring power is ridiculous.
Yeah. Machine 180 says, how much for the winner of this? I don't know, Gob. Do you know what the prize money is for the winner?
I don't at the minute.
We'll try and find out and get back to you.
Yes.
So that is the seniors. From there, I think it's this one. I hope it's this one. We are going for a night on the toon. Thursday night is the last.
I was hoping you was going to press that and like Luke Humphries was just going to appear and whatever you've been trying to do for the past half hour just happened and he was sat there on his settee watching TV.
The last regular night of the Kazoo Premier League, and it is all on the banks of the Tyne. But who will it be? We know the top three, or we know three of the playoff places. All will be decided. But let's go through it. First up, Gary Anderson against Johnny Clayton. Chat room, get involved with this as well. Can any of us see Johnny Clayton not winning this one?
I don't think it matters either way.
I'm not saying it matters.
But no, with the throw, going through the motions. Although that being said, he was sort of going through the motions last week. He lost with an 80-something average on the Euro Tour this week. One last moment of glory for Gary on the Premier League stage.
How funny would that be if he rocks up, wins, finishes bottom, wins 2 nights?
Johnny Equal Smith.
Johnny 6-2 for me.
Hard to disagree. I see it being one-sided about that midway.
All eyes. It is a straight shootout. Pistols at dawn on the banks of the River Tyne. Or the Utility Arena, but it sounds better. Joe Cullen versus Peter Wright. The winner will go to Berlin. But who will that be? Boise.
Not a clue. Peter Wright edges it 6-4. Nervy game. I just think Peter, that's an early break. We see a couple of switches of break in there, but I think Peter's experience just lets him over the line.
I've got Snakebite as well. This weekend's just something that little bit different. It's all on the first couple of legs to me. If Cullen starts slowly and allows Peter to stay in the match, then Peter wins. If Cullen goes 3-0 up, job done. I don't see Peter fighting back. It'll produce a couple of legs, but I just think Joe will be able to keep him at arm's length. The Fat Right will need 2 breaks to get back, etc. But yeah, anything other than Cullen leading 3-0, and I've got Peter Wright all day.
I'm going to stick with the statistics. I'm going with the man that has the darts. I'm going Joe Cullen, just because I think having the throw has been so pivotal in this Premier League, as it's shown. And the Rockstar having the darts. Also, Peter's going to have to find something or do the same as what he did on Sunday. I don't know what that was, but whatever it is, he needs to do that again. I'm going Joe. Battle of the Michaels up next, and again 2 players that will be going through the motions. I thought MVG's interview on Via Play on Thursday was interesting, where he said he had no motivation. It was a dead game because he was already at Berlin. An interesting take, Gob.
Yeah, and the dark thing is this one's exactly the same, if not more now, because last weekend he still could have got ahead of Johnny Clayton. There was only a 6-point gap at the end of the night because Clayton went all the way to the final. There was motivation for MVG to go and finish first. There's no financial reward for it, but you know how precious he's been over that spot for the last decade almost, and now he just refuses to let anybody have it for so long. That battle with Rob Cross that went all the way, does us taking it off him, hurt him an awful lot. But this week, he can't go anywhere. He literally can only finish second. It's a case of turn up, do my job, get out of there, get on the road, and be ready to go because he's just got that busy week coming up. Playing less games for Michael Van Gerwen on night 16 is the best thing for him.
But there was also a difference before, because you get 25 grand for topping the table. Now you don't get anything. That was always his motivation, was that 25 grand bonus, where now you don't get anything for topping the table. Which is why last week he was like...
10 grand for winning this, but doesn't mean an awful lot when you've then got to go and play Euro Tour for 3 days, where you win 25 grand if you go and win it through the same format on the final day. And then he's got to travel and get himself to New York anyway.
Yeah. But who wins?
Smith.
Boise?
MVG. I just think I get Dobbs' point. Similar. Just looking at them 4, there's a good opportunity for MVG to pick up 10k this week. I think there's the bottom 2. There's not a huge motivation for Price. James Wade, not sure how much he's recovered. Looking at what performance he put in last week, so I think there's a big opportunity for MVG to just pick up that 10k. I think I can see probably in the first game being a bit edgy, but I think if he gets them through that, couple of games for £10,000. So yeah, I see MVG getting past Smith.
Yeah, look, I just think it's a case of none of them want to play it, and I'm going to go MVG just because he has the darts. Bottom one, again, this is a really intriguing one. You've obviously got Gezi, who we all know doesn't like the Premier League at the best of times, and when he can't win, can't do anything, he genuinely isn't going to care about this game. James Wade, when he's fit and well, we all know he plays to a level all the time. But again, last week didn't look well at all. I don't know if a week is enough to get him right, Gob. After what we saw, because genuinely he looks so out of sorts. And look, he was obviously very ill to spend 3 days in hospital. in the first place. So I genuinely don't know what to expect from this game.
Me neither. I don't think there's any real big motivation to go and target third or fourth either. You're playing Michael Van Gerwen or Johnny Clayton, who in a first to 10 are both just as dangerous as each other right now. There's no, I'd rather play this one at the minute, I think. You're just going to take whichever hand you're dealt. You're going to throw second in the match no matter what.
Yeah.
Do they pull off for the final, or is there an advantage of being third should fourth place make the final as well?
What in Berlin? You mean?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Is it highest ranked
Wouldn't
pros
surprise me
first? Or...
Yeah, I assume it will be.
So that's potentially the only thing to look ahead to is 2.5 games time. Will you get the throw if you're successful? And I just don't see a lot of motivation in either of these two.
No, I don't know. Look, this could be a sub 90 average where both of them genuinely don't care.
I think Wade's not in Zwolle, is he?
No.
So this is his only practice before New York, and we'll want to make an impression in New York, I guess. So this is his little warm-up event. So maybe he's got that little advantage over Gezi, and the fact he's got a 5-1 head-to-head record against the Iceman right now, and won't want to start giving that up for freebies. So maybe James just, but like I said, I can't see either player going berserk or getting emotional over it.
No, I'm with you. Boise, where you going?
Price, I'm not too sure on what level was he from Wade. I think Price would just have enough. I think hopefully it'll be an improved Wade. We don't want to see what we saw last week. But I think Price will have enough.
Yeah, I'm going Price just because I don't know how well James is. If James had been fit and healthy, even though he qualified, I still think he'd do a number on him. Dan says in the chat room, could any of the top 3 guys pull out and would they get fined? Are they allowed to pull out? Yes. However, the PDC would go absolutely nuts and they would get fined massively for pulling out just because they don't want to play in a Premier League. They'd have to be ill, dying, or have no hand.
And
yeah, I think
they've got another one.
The only one I think it wouldn't be too bad on is if James Wade did, as long as he then followed up and says, "Oh, I can't do New York as well, so I'm still not well enough," and there was a London impact on that just because of his. Obviously, we're not sure how bad he was previously, but then it would still be potentially a fine.
Yeah. So who wins night 16, gentlemen? And who do they beat in the final? Chat room as well. Who wins night 16?
Wraps up the lead in style, and Johnny Clayton, we see Johnny Clayton MVG final once more. I think if MVG gets through that first game, the motivation's there to go on and pick up the 10k. Whoever comes through the second game, that will be enough, and I think either Joe and Peter relax, and I'll just see Johnny then going on and wrapping up the Premier League with another nightly win and another 10k to add to his ever-growing pot of cash in the Premier League.
Job?
I'm a hopeless romantic. Last chance saloon, Michael Smith.
To be fair, part of me would love Michael Smith to win
Once
this.
Joe Cullen or Peter Wright have a result against each other, the rest of the night is really insignificant for them, unless, like I said, they have a real big preference over who they play, whether that be Michael Van Gerwen or Johnny Clayton. And at the same time, if James Wade goes and puts himself in a semi-final or a final, it's irrelevant what they do anyway. They're staying exactly where they are. So once they've got that result, they're in final tonight, pressure off their shoulders, nobody really cares. The only person playing for absolutely anything after that is Michael Smith to not be the only one to not win a night.
I'm going for Johnny Clayton to beat MBG in the final because he has the darts. So that's that one. Where is it? I know I teed it up. We may be going into Fergie time tonight, boys. This one caused a little bit of a stir this afternoon, gents. The nations, notice not the teams, just the nations, were released today. Gob, I know you're waiting to go. Look, there is one that I think that most thought would be there that isn't, is France.
Yeah. Especially given the year that Tricol's had, Labra being on a pro tour at one point this year. He sort of emerged out of nowhere, but when you've got two players like that, a lot of press around Tricol after his run to the WDF World Final. This, along with the World Series, for a while has been about commercial viability as much as playing ability. And when you've got a market ready to burst with a player who is gaining headlines like Thibaut Tricol is right now, to not take advantage of that seems incredibly daft, in my opinion. Because if Tricol filters out for the next 6 months, doesn't get his tour card again next year or whatever, isn't quite in the forefront of everybody's mind, you lose a little bit of that impotence that you could have gained by including France this time around. Especially when you look at some of the teams that haven't really been that effective in the past. Depending on who plays for them, I'm still yet to see anything special from the Italians. The players we've been excited about in the past, your Sergio Crasson, Daniele Petroni, and a couple of others, they haven't made that Italian team yet. They're the ones that have gone furthest at Q School, etc., but they're yet to make that Italian team. I'm looking at some of the Scandinavian countries, Finland, Denmark a little bit. It's just all a little bit uninspiring right now. And look, I know Matt Porter's promised us changes next year. You sat down with him in the Premier League a couple of weeks ago, said it's too short notice to make wholesale changes to this event. I just think that makes this year, given the lack of inclusion of anybody new, this year already feels a little bit flat. I tweeted earlier, it feels a little bit Premier League right now. We're talking about who should be there, who shouldn't be there. The overwhelming opinion is that people want to see more pairs matches, and you're only guaranteed that in the first round. And given the inclusion of some of these teams that have been incredibly uninspiring for the last 5 to 10 years, it feels a little bit like we've seen this before, because we have seen this before effectively. And when you look at the top players that are potentially going to be missing as well, your form players in the world right now, Luke Humphries is up to 13 in the world rankings now. Collins 11, Michael Smith up there as well. But you're going to get Wadey. Rob Cross won't be in that England team. Simon Whitlock isn't playing the way that he has been. Corey Cadby's back on the scene, but nowhere near at that level to take over Simon Whitlock's spot. Belgians are struggling, as we've said already. Brazil, we've sort of seen that before. If it is an emerging market, it's an incredibly slow burning one. Canada, a little bit excited for them, and the Czech Republic to a certain extent, happy for them. Gibraltar, not sure who's playing for them this year. They got a couple of youngsters, and I've also seen Dyson Parody back in contention this year. But again, they're not about to go and make quarterfinals or semi-finals, I don't think. Hong Kong, a little bit uninspiring. Hungary didn't pick Patrick Kovacs, who's been a WDF online champion and arguably one of the better players that they've got. The Italians we've mentioned already. And I'm just still going. That's halfway through, and I'm picking holes in it. The Germans, I presume it's going to be Clemens and Schindler now, just?
Schindler, yeah. Some of my issues as well is there are teams in there that don't have tour card holders, and there are nations that have been left out with tour card holders. Croatia being
the absence of Croatia, who have a tour card holder, is a little bit of a joke, considering that is how the likes of Portugal got added to the event. It's sort of been the PDC's mission over the last couple of years that every country that has a tour card holder gets snuck in here, especially when it's someone as valuable as Jose de Souza was at the time, etc. To not put Croatia in when they have a tour card holder, it's just a little bit that.
I don't get that, and I look at it. Obviously, Switzerland, you've got Stefan Baumann doing bits, doesn't have a tour card. Who's going to play with him?
You say doing bits, didn't you lose with an 85 on Friday?
Yeah, but he's won a challenge tour this year. He's qualified for Euro Tour, so doing bits, I'd stick him in that bit. But who's going to play with him?
I think it's Youngmans or something.
Yeah. Portugal, yes, Jose is very good, but I'm guessing it'll be, was it Rafael Marquez or Jose Marquez again?
Jose Marquez, possibly.
Again, does he bring anything to the World? Does he bring anything to the World Cup?
The Brazilian number 2, whoever it is, not going to add an awful lot. Excited for the North American, but again, they're one crap draw away from nothing. Again,
yeah, I'm interested to see Canada and America.
Yeah. Well, who's playing for each? Do we know? Is it Jeff Smith, Matt Campbell?
Yeah, Jeff Smith. Yes, they're both tour card holders. So it'll be Jeff Smith, Matt Campbell, and America will be Jules Van Dongen and Danny Baggish.
See, that's not the most exciting either.
Because they're tour card holders. You can't.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I would have Danny Lauby on the American side, but you can't.
Is Baggish confirmed? As obviously we know he travelled home recently.
Well, he's playing in New York.
He played a CDC event. Last week.
Okay. Yeah. So I just wasn't sure if he's travelling back to Europe for it.
I would guess so, but yeah, Hong Kong offer very little apart from the Asian market at the moment. They haven't played any competitive darts because there's been no PDC Asia Tour, which is a concern. Finland, how? Why?
Marco Cantelli's a hero.
He's also boring as hell.
The biggest one for me is the Croatia one.
Over
more than
the teams that aren't.
Yeah, more for me than the France is the Croatia one. Yeah, we've seen what Thibaut's done, but the fact that we've got a PDC tour card holder from Croatia, but they haven't got a pit, is more of a. I'm more surprised with that one than I am with France. I didn't expect France to be in. Yes, with a revamp and maybe opportunities in the future, but we've got a tour card holder who is playing week in, week out on the tour, but he's not representing his country at the World Cup where other countries are, doesn't have the right feel to it. When there's a number of nations who haven't got one. A huge number of nations.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie, I don't like it.
Not this. I'm struggling to get excited about my favourite tournament this year.
It shouldn't be your favourite.
Yeah. Yeah, look, I'm just not convinced at all right now.
Especially if there hasn't been an Asian tour, so you can't really get excited about Ilagan and Malikdom for the Philippines, if it is even Malikdom as number 2, because we've seen it before. We've seen just how good the action can be, but they've never really produced anything. Singapore, if it's both the limbs, will get nostalgic for about 10 minutes. They might win a first-round game, but you don't expect them to go deeper. Austria might be steady. Depends which Mensah turns up. Roby John's playing okay at the minute. Other than that, you never really fancy England anymore. Wales, depends how motivated they are. If the weeks they're going on, I can't really see past the Netherlands right now. Is it Dirk or is it Danny?
Danny, yeah.
Yeah, I can't see past the Dutch right now. The fact I said that before I even knew which one of them two was playing just says how much further ahead of everybody else there I think right now.
Yeah. I'm struggling, and again, with the 2-year ranking system, there are players that are playing much better than the other number 2s at the moment as well. But that's for another day. It's going to be interesting. You've got social media talking, that is for sure. Right, we're still going to do question times. Yes, we're going into Fergie time because there's been so much going on today. Whilst you guys get your questions in, have we missed anything in a week of darts, boys? Probably, because there's been that much going on.
There's been a couple of things that we don't ask about. Champions Week for the live league tomorrow.
Beat me to it, Dom.
Oh.
So if you'd like to get the lineup ready, and I'll get everything else ready.
On the live league, how good was Nathan Gervin this week? Oh my God. Absolutely unreal. An average of over a ton on finals night on Friday for the whole night.
So if you want to get the lineup ready, the WDF Nations Cup was won by England. The men's was, I think the women's was, and the youth was. I think Luke Littler did the absolute sweep. Don't think he lost a match, and also won the final game for England in that one. Noticeable that the trophy still has BDO logo on it, so maybe Des Jacqueline's going to try and nick that, whichever one of them they've taken it home with them. But
if you read my mind, I've just quote retweeted Josh Richardson's tweet saying, "Don't show that logo off too much, mate. It'll be getting reclaimed."
Yeah. So there's that one. The JDC Advanced Tour finished this week, and it was won by Henry Coates, who topped the order of merit. Luke Littler was second or third. The JDC Youth England team, by the way, is again going to be Henry Coates, Luke Littler, Leighton Bennett, and one other. I can't remember the lad's name, but it just looks ridiculously stacked. Once again, have we missed anything else?
Lyndall, I like your rankings, but there are also shortfalls in it, in my opinion. I like how it moves, but I don't like some of the calculations the way it's done.
Oh, Friday night. We missed Friday night. I went back to uni and did the varsity match between Trent and Uniov, exhibition pre-match with Matt Edgar and the legend Steve Beaton, and also Paul Hinks refereeing throughout the evening. A little bit of cross promotion, but Matt Edgar's done a little video on it, released today, so head over to his channel to check out what that's all about.
No, Lendo, I don't know exactly how it's done, but I don't like the fact that one sport in itself isn't taken into consideration. and two, the fact that players don't move even though they don't play. I remember when Gezi was top for about 8 weeks when he hadn't even thrown a dart or whatever it was at one point. If you're not playing, you should lose. It's not a form ranking, because if you're not playing, there's no form to go off of. This week on the Live League, there is a slight tweak because of work commitments. So, Group A will be Jim McEwen, Chaz Barstow, Ryan Furness, Nathan Gerben, Graham Usher. Scott Williams comes into Group A as the next best one because Peter Jakes couldn't do the whole week. Group B will be Stephen Burton and Darryl Pilgrim. And Group C will be Peter Jakes, Scott Walters, Kieran Tian, and Mike Warburton. What a Champions Week that is, boys.
It's not too shabby at all. At all.
Yeah.
Certainly going to be a good watch.
Yeah. Scott Wall's best start practicing. Yeah, look, mate, it's a tough 12-man lineup. Right, we're going to do some questions before the full-time whistle goes. We knew it was going to be busy today, boys, didn't we?
Just a little bit. It's not as if Notts County are heading towards a penalty shootout on the screen behind me. But yeah, we'll do some questions. It almost wouldn't be a live lounge, by the way, if we didn't discuss Gerwin Price's Instagram story, because it's quite interesting right now. Does you both flop there?
Just while you are looking at that, one of the questions that has come in, just a thought for the Premier League, before the tournament starts, each player picked who would represent them in the case that they are injured or ill. Your thoughts on that?
No. Because if Michael Van Gogh and Mr. Van der Hoort would play, we don't even need to ask him.
Yeah, but also, if Van der Voort's not in the form that, I don't know, if we just don't have fellow countrymen that Noppy or Dirt's in, it's not a great pick.
Are you on about where he's arguing with in the messages, Gob?
Yes.
I like that, to be fair. I like he's having a go back.
It just gives a platform to it. It's the same thing that has been said for years now. Just block, delete, and report, and move on.
Yeah, but arguing makes better content. Scotty says, "Who's your pick for this week?" Then, right now, based off if he chose the form that he did last week, Nathan Gerben for me, because he was just unreal. 99 ton plus averages all the time, wired double 12 for a 9. On that form, I would make him favourite. But look, we know a few days off in darts can do funny things. Next week, it will be. I won't be on the live lounge next week, unfortunately, or fortunately.
Someone got a wedding.
No, I'll be in the air.
As if you're not flying business, so you get Wi-Fi. What a state.
But we will have plenty of content coming your way from the Big Apple. I like the fact as well that it's live as in proper times for New York, not for the UK like it was in Vegas.
That means I have to stay up even later. Fortunately, it's East Coast. If it was West Coast, I'd be livid.
Yeah. But
it's already
that
bad
is-
enough now that it's the semi-finals that Boston are playing at 1:30 instead of midnight. Do you know how difficult it is to stay up an extra hour and a half before it even starts?
Aw. Interesting that obviously I thought Eddie might go, being it's New York, but he'll be at the title fight in Wales. I thought that the chairman might go to NYC as the
He spends enough time out
flagship.
there.
Yeah.
And he's not the most popular out there either, is he, in the boxing scene? So if he starts trying to promote darts out there at all, it'll probably have a negative effect.
We've got opinion on Raymond van Barneveld. He doesn't play badly, but he doesn't really have good runs. He's a long way from the world match play at the moment. I think he's just doing enough at the moment. We see glimpses of genius, but it's hard to climb the rankings, boys, unless you get in the TV events, isn't it? You can get so far on Pro Tours and on Euro Tours, but to make those big leaps to get into your 32s and your 16s, you need TV money.
Yeah, that's sort of the thing with him at the moment. It's a bit of a slow burner, because when he got there, probably we're talking similar around Darren Anderson at the moment, who's in that top bit. Yes, he's not performing that well, but he's in all those events. So there only needs one good week in one of the big TV ones, and then he can remain there for another 12 months potentially. When you're then coming back onto the tour, you need to be in all those events. And at the moment, because he's not having, I'm going to say the rub of the green, but he's not hitting the levels that he's hit before, as well as there is a bit of luck in there, missing out on a match play then just keeps him sitting where he is. And it's then the look of how long does he take those being outside the top 32 as that's his career moving forward, or do we see a decision then in a few years' time? Now the circuit's opened up a lot more and opportunities are there outside of the tour titles if he continues. It'll be interesting, because if he doesn't break into that 32, I ain't too sure if we see him past 24, 25.
Yeah. Thoughts on Neil Duff declining Q School? I'm not surprised.
Straight after he won the Worlds, he made it clear that was a decision he was going to make. He wanted to be able to do it. I think his words were to do what Glenn done and go back and defend. He turned down going to Q-Stall this year to play at Lakeside, to then go on and win it. He's made it pretty clear that he will be going back. So I'm not surprised that he's turned down that opportunity.
Hashtag BDO for life.
The flip of that is by turning down a tour card means that not only can he defend at Lakeside, but he will be turning 50. I can't think if it's later this year or start next year, which means not only will we see him at Lakeside once, there's an opportunity that we could see him twice if the tournament is held there with the next year, because he would have that to attend.
It's interesting that players are seeing that as a route now, given that it is next week and whatever.
Yeah.
I am and I'm not. That I think that some of them have got the wrong attitude, though. That this isn't Neil, by the way, before anyone jumps on. They're just listening to some players speak that they think they have got a deserved right to be straight into the TV stages of the seniors. When the tour is there, that the qualification, I get it's the first year, so this year's a bit different, but going forward, I'd like to see less invites and more on emphasis on the tour.
I think that will come as well. I think those discussions are already.
I do as well. Look, first year, I completely get it right now on why it has to be done, but just long term, I just think I'd like to.
probably add to that, I'd like to see it brought down. However, there is got to be pressure at some stage on the invites because, yes, they are named and sell tickets, but one of those players, let's say, is always invited, but always loses first round in the free TV events. If that happens this year and then starts next year, there's then got to be question marks on who you're inviting as well, because if they're just going there to play one game and are losing fairly comfortably, there's all question marks about the people you're inviting as well as the number that's there. That number's got to come down, but the people who are invited to depend on their level of performance when they're at these events. Because let's say Phill, for example, is only playing 3 TV events a year. He's got to then find motivation to get to them. Yes, we've seen him in exhibitions and stuff, and I'm just using Phill as an example because it's the easiest one to use because I'm sure he'll be invited throughout. But they've also got to perform as well. Because if they just turn up and lose first round, people in that board have seen them do that at a certain standard.
Agreed. Couple more then. There's a couple of good ones before we go. Jamie says, do you think the World Cup should be winner host like Eurovision? I would like that, but it will never happen because of the German market.
It's not the German market. The issue is that you can't commit to putting an event in a country that won't have the demand to have a crowd, because some of those countries will not. If you get an unlikely winner. And you also get the point that if you get an England team dominate like they have before, or the Dutch team dominate like they have before, you don't get the move around.
Yeah.
So it becomes irrelevant. Especially as, look, Matt's promised us big things, and I'm hoping part of that promise is a week-long event rather than a 3-day event. Is an expansion.
I was looking at this. I don't think it will be a week-long. I think there may be an extra session on the Thursday, but I don't think it will be a week-long tournament. I don't think the demand is there yet for a week-long.
But even if you add extra sessions, the same point applies to then move it around. You have to have the ticket demand for that. What does the World Cup hold at the minute? Between 1,000 and 1,500?
It depends where they did it. It depends where it is, because the last one pre-COVID was in Hamburg, and it was at the football stadium. It was huge. I haven't been to one at Frankfurt.
By adding an extra session, you have to have the demand for tickets in a session that doesn't line up with the weekend as much, so it doesn't look crap.
But you
somebody
get away with
World Championship use.
Yeah, I just think there may be a Thursday night session added, but I don't think there'll be any more than that at the moment.
We got Thursday night already, haven't we? Wouldn't it be Wednesday night or possibly Friday afternoon? We do Thursday to Sunday anyway, don't we? Thursday, Friday night, Saturday double, Sunday double.
I thought it was Friday, Saturday.
No, because the first round. The first rounds are split across 2 nights. Let's check. Got it somewhere. Yeah, Thursday, Friday night, then double Saturday, Sunday.
There'll be no extra sessions added. I don't think Sky want another week-long tournament like that. And if your broadcaster's not paying,
you're not going to do it.
You can't do it. Right, last one then from Ben says, do you think more could be done with the World Series, like revamping it and becoming ranked? It won't be ranked, but certainly I'd like to see a revamp of some sort.
Revamp and mixture of players. They've got to look at, for me, I understand promoting it worldwide. the fact that the players are very similar to what we get in the Premier League, so close to when the Premier League finishes, is where I have more of my questions. Because
when you listen to Barry's original interview in 2019, when they originally put Fallon in New York to start with, didn't they? And then, literally, as he said in his interview, within 24 hours of them doing that, the broadcasters from Australia and New Zealand demanded her in. And without their money, the World Series doesn't happen.
To be honest, my issue on this one isn't with Fallon being in there, though. It's the fact it's been there from a darts fan.
But the broadcasters are always going to want your MVGs, your Peter Wrights, your going prices. Because
at some point, the BBC have to say no. It's exactly the same issue and conversation about the Premier League and why we can't go to 16 players and alternate, because the venues or the broadcasters are going to want the same players. The same players are getting bloody boring. People are going to stop watching full stop.
But
it does the job in the home place, fine. But in terms of your audience, your TV audience, which is what drives the broadcasters to actually pay to have it, at some point, someone's got to say the product is good enough without these top players. You cannot keep relying on the same 8 players, because look at the damage it's doing right now. Gary Anderson's all over the shop. You're right, it's not playing his best. We literally sat there and picked apart the Premier League 8 in week 15 right now.
Yeah, but
and look, I appreciate that's what broadcasters want, that's what sells. But at some point, something has to change, and someone's got to make the first move.
Yeah, but your World Series, Matt and Barry have said this constantly, the World Series, and they said this with the greatest respect, isn't aimed at UK audience. It's aimed at the audience they are going to. So, how can I say this nicely? If you're in Australia and you get darts once a year, you get 2 events, you want the best. You don't want that tier. You want... But, right, who's going to sell more tickets? And I don't mean this horribly either, but who's going to sell more tickets in Australia? An in-form Luke Humphries or an out-of-form Michael Van Gerwen?
Ask that question about Gary Anderson instead of Michael Van Gerwen. Because now, it's I'm not buying this ticket debate. I'm not buying this who sells more tickets at the Premier League, and I'm not buying this who sells more tickets at World Championships, whatever else, because 75% of tickets are sold before lineups are announced. Every single time. The
Premier League, I agree with you, but I don't on the World Series.
Next season Premier League tickets are nearly sold out for the majority of venues. I've put them back on sale already.
The Premier League,
going to be there. People are there for
the Premier League, I agree with you, but I don't the World Series, because chatting to the guys in America and down under, they sold more tickets once the players have been announced.
I appreciate what you're saying, but the fact the events are so similar, and that was how we got into this conversation, one of them needs to make a change somewhere. The conversation was how can we make the World Series different, and it was, well, it's an awful lot like the Premier League at the minute. Well, if the World Series absolutely cannot budge, then that tells us everything we need to know about what's wrong with the Premier League right now.
Yeah, but for me, you
cannot keep pouring out the same 8 players and expecting everybody to be excited.
But for me, you change the format of the World Series event, so it's not just best of 11, 501. You change the event that way for me.
To what?
So in America, you play a cricket tournament. No. Down under, one of them is double in.
No.
But I would then have the argument to say you want to see these players, you also want to see them competing in the way that you see them competing on TV, because you only then see them once a year. I wouldn't be happy if I was in those countries and only seen them once a year, and then I saw them come and play cricket.
Literally,
you can't draw in a new audience on them thinking that you play cricket 12 times a year, when actually you play it to impress them at home, and then they watch it and go, well, this isn't what I was watching. Where's the rest of it gone?
But Barry,
you just can't do it. There's the finals, and you qualify for the finals. Means every event before that has to be the same format. It's the same argument with the Players' Championship finals. Oh, why aren't they double in before doubling? Because they count towards the Players' Championship finals. These count towards the World Series finals, which is ranked.
World Series finals isn't ranked.
Of course not. But there's a shitload of cash on there, and there's a qualifier.
But like Barry's always said, anyone can have a World Series if you pay me enough money. So that's what it comes down to, the World Series. Yes, it is growing.
Barry needs to sell a few more books and bugger off.
But it's just as bad because Eddie's running it. No different. Look at the boxing. Pay me the. That's why Joshua Usyk is going to Saudi, because they're paying the most money.
Anyway, lovely show tonight, gents.
It's been good. But yeah, the World Series does need something, but it's not going to change because it is the way it is.
World Series team, Premier League.
Nah. Right, everyone. Plenty of action coming up, and Online Darts Champions Week returns tomorrow, 9:30 for Group A. Then we will have coverage of the Premier League. We'll be at the World Seniors, and then I will be heading out to New York to bring you coverage from there as well. Gentlemen, it's been a good show. As always here, pleasure.
Pleasure, as always.
That is us signing off one last time. If you haven't, make sure you subscribe and drop us a like as well. I've been Phill Bars, Jack Garwood, and Lee Boyce signing off, and we'll see you all very, very soon.